Honestly, I'm sure today's episode will appeal to a lot of the fandom, especially those who used to enjoy those fanfics called Re-Forgotten, a fanfic where the kingdom accused Subaru of having strong ties to the witch cult. On the other hand, this episode made me change my perspective on Tigga, and that was because of some words he said, words that are very, very similar to what Sithonia said in a side novel. Who is Sithonia? Well, stay until the end of the video to find out. Before we get started, a big thanks to the members of my Spanish channel. A very special shout out to the fan of power, Mansek, who has been following me for quite a while now, and we've even interacted in the past. In fact, out of curiosity because of him, I was inspired to check out Uma Musume. Thanks as well to Juan Munoz, the Karate fan, the Burger fan, Jean Vallejos, Liber PG, the Sonic fan, and finally, Manolo. As for my English channel, surprisingly, while I was editing this, I realized that Juan Munoz is also subscribed here as well. So if you've subscribed to both channels, believe me, I truly appreciate it. And just for this once, if you're seeing this Juan and you want me to make a short on a Re-Zero topic, just ask me in the comments and I'll do it. Now let's get analysis of episode 15 of Re-Zero Archi 10. The chapter begins with Betty's point of view as she tells us about everything that happened while Subaru was unconscious. This serves to give us context for what took place. It is revealed there that Tigga managed to use fire magic even though the magic nullifying field was active. The way he did it was by using the mana inside his own body. Because while the field could nullify external magic, it could not nullify magic coming from within a person. Basically, it would be the opposite of what Aldebaran did to Capella, when he made something explode inside the Archbishop, whereas Tigga detonated something within his own body, which then ended up striking Subaru and Crush. I think the most interesting part is Betty's reflection, where she says that what Tigga did was extreme because he basically risked his life for that spell. And she assumes he did it because he truly knows that Crush is someone powerful, and he does not want to die in that confrontation. That is why, in a way, Betty cannot bring herself to blame him entirely. But what she absolutely cannot forgive is that he put Subaru in danger, and because of that, she sides with Crush despite the consequences Tigga warns could follow. Honestly, this part left me stunned, because this Tigga crossed a line that the original Tigga never crossed in the canon of the video game. The line of willingly harming an innocent person. But that may have an explanation. You see, in the game The Prophecy of the Throne, it is very safe to say that Capella supervised her subordinates through Sakura, but it is never implied that Tigga had much direct contact with her. I imagine that because of this lack of contact, Tigga never experienced true despair in the video game. However, the Tigga from the novel says something that strongly, very strongly, reminds us of the reaction shown by other children of Capella, whom we know for certain had direct contact with her. Let me introduce you to Ryza. He is an important character in one of Anastasia's novels, and he was carrying out an order directly from Capella herself. However, Anna and her group intervene and ruin his objective. Still, when he momentarily believes he has won, he says something interesting. Something that carries a certain resemblance to what Tigga said today, and it is shown on screen. As we can see, it seems like he wants to escape from his mother's grasp by doing her this favor. Another example, on a much larger scale of what I've been talking about, is the final word spoken by Sithonia, a character from Elsa's novel, regarding the control and fear that Capella exerts over her.
Tilting her head, Elsa questioned with little emotion whether the idea of transforming into a complete cursed doll was truly tempting for her companion, a question that caused Sithonia to bite her lip hard. Violent emotions surfaced on Sithonia's face, exposing the dense accumulation of negative thoughts she kept buried deep inside. Elsa's keen sense of smell, accustomed to catching the scents humans emit simply by existing, as naturally as the act of breathing, grew alert to the essence Sithonia was giving off. She precisely identified that what emanated from her was an expansive and unbearable terror, a feeling so powerful it had become the engine driving her to commit her atrocities. Faced with such evidence, Elsa wanted to know what she was so afraid of. Sithonia confessed that her fear was directed toward the most frightening and repulsive being in this world. That voice, trembling with dread, prompted Elsa to try and imagine the source of such anguish. However, her limited imagination prevented her from visualizing the form of what so terrified her sister. It was then that Sithonia revealed that this being was her own mother, or, to be more precise, a monster who called herself by that name. With her eyes shining with an impulsive light, Sithonia firmly asserted that she required that secret art to finally escape the monster's grasp.
Because of this similarity in the attitudes of Ryza, Sithonia, and Tigga, I believe that Tigga is referring to Capella when he says he wants his life back, and this is somewhat supported by Betty's words when she wonders why Tigga is trying so hard in his actions. After that, Crush, with her new dragon eye, manages to cut off the flow of power from Tigga's flames. In this way, she extinguishes the fire and protects Subaru from it. Then, after Betty decides to help Crush, she deactivates the magic nullifying field, and the former candidate proceeds to use her technique to cause a huge commotion and escape, thus connecting with the ending of the previous episode. Subaru and Crush are talking in the sewers, and Crush finally gives confirmation that her memories have returned. Which isn't actually that big of a deal, because we basically knew this from the moment she remembered Prince Fourier. The most interesting things are twofold. First, that Crush tends to speak of her amnesiac self as someone weak, making it inevitable that we compare her current situation to the amnesiac Subaru from Season 4. But while the Subaru without memories ended up loving and accepting his weak side, it seems Crush rejects it. Afterwards, she reveals her true objective, to eliminate the rebels infiltrated within the kingdom. I have to say, I liked how Subaru didn't just rush in and blindly agree to help her. Instead, he's aware that all of this could just be a delusion on Crush's part, especially now that Subaru discovers Crush misunderstood the decision Felix made for her. This means that the reconciliation between the tomboy and her femboy will likely be easier than it looks. In the end, backed by the words of Betty, who says they will both make sure the choice made is the right one, Subaru decides to follow Crush, but not because he wants to support or stop her, but because he doesn't want to leave her alone at this moment. I sincerely liked this decision from Subaru, as it aligns perfectly with the resolve he forged in the sagas following the anime. A decision where he doesn't want to lose another person precious to him and wants to make sure he understands those he treasures. So he pursues Crush while asking an absent Otto to take care of the mess his decision will cause. As you can see, I love this, although I think the author failed in one small detail. You see, this moment of Crush having her outburst and asking for Subaru's cooperation is very similar to the first season, when Subaru was the one who wasn't quite sane and was asking for support from a royal selection candidate who was in a better position than him. I would have loved for the author to make a reference to how the roles have now been reversed. Fortunately, this can still be added in the light novel version. If I may say so, I think Crush's hunch is correct. There really are traitors infiltrated into the kingdom's high circles, and that's why she's made it her goal to eliminate them. I firmly believe this because we're already in the second volume of Arc 10. We've moved past the phase where the general plot of the arc was being laid out, and for that reason alone, I'd say Crush's gut feeling is right, and it will now fall to Subaru to help her achieve her goal. We cut to the next scene and see what the Amelia faction is up to. They were waiting for Subaru so Reinhard could take them to Pristella to heal the victims. This reminds me, I had high expectations that now that they were returning to that city, the subplots that were left unfinished would be picked up. Subplots like the recovery of the Book of Wisdom, Garfield's mom, and the lost civilization beneath the city that Garfield found. It seems we'll have to wait a bit longer for all that. I say it won't be possible because then came the revelation of the year. Marcus would announce that the kingdom has serious suspicions that Natsuki Subaru has ties to the witch cult, and not only that, but they think he might be someone on the level of an archbishop. I'd like you to process this for a moment. I think there's a massive pile-on against Subaru, one that feels very forced. I'd compare it to me stealing a piece of bread tomorrow and them wanting to give me 30 years for it. Obviously, I have no proof to back up my thought that they are over-accusing Subaru, but I simply feel the charges presented are exaggerated, especially when we take Subaru's entire positive track record into account. For now, I'm thinking what everyone else is. Capella or someone close to her must be pushing to raise these accusations against Subaru. It's not far-fetched to think this, since in the first season we saw that random cultists can detect the witch's scent on Subaru, and surely some of those helping Capella, or Capella herself, came up with the idea of charging him, seeing as the amount of miasma Subaru gives off is comparable to that of an archbishop. Regardless, the most interesting thing about this is seeing the reactions we'll get from the other characters, not just Subaru's allies within the Amelia faction, but the other factions as well. In fact, something I'd really like to see happen is the following. You surely remember that Arc 9 was Lugunica versus Aldebaran. Now in Arc 10, it seems it's Lugunica against Subaru. And just as Aldebaran's group fought against Rome, Wilhelm, and Reinhard, I'd like it to be Subaru's turn to not only repeat these feats, but to surpass them in fewer attempts than the traitor. I don't think it's crazy to believe the aforementioned characters could cross paths with Subaru now that he is the enemy of the state. And while I agree it would be unrealistic to expect them to fight, I haven't the slightest idea what other characters the author would send to hunt Subaru. I know there are royal knights other than Julius, Reinhard, and Felix, but let's not kid ourselves. Those knights are pretty useless, and even I could do more than them. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but the point is that so far we haven't seen anyone outstanding besides Reinhard, Julius, and Marcus. Let's remember that Julius isn't an option since he's in another country, and while it could be Reinhard and Marcus, I'm eager to see who will go first to hunt down Subaru. By the way, I think it's good to remember that at this moment, Russell is making his move, and apparently Salem, an ally of Tigga in the video game, is helping him, based on the sword seen in the official illustration. So, I don't think it's crazy to expect the Six Tongues to intervene, but rather that they too end up being manipulated by Capella to go against Subaru. If that happens, Roswaal will obviously support his boy, and I think the best way Subaru will have to defeat Marcus would be through Roswaal. Besides, Roswaal and Marcus have a bit of a rivalry where in the past they both fought and ended in a tie. So, what better time than the main novel to definitively settle this rivalry? And to wrap up, I like to believe that at this moment, Emperor Vincent Valaquia must be surprised by Subaru's alleged rebellion. I'm not joking when I say he would help Subaru without hesitation. After all, just as Roswaal knows about Subaru's power, Vincent knows the same. So if the protagonist asked, he wouldn't hesitate to lend Subaru a hand to overthrow the kingdom. Unfortunately, Subaru himself wouldn't allow that, so our boy will have to manage on his own. But that's been all for today. I hope you liked my impressions, and if not, well, what can I tell you? It's my channel, and they're my impressions. See ya!